Welcome to episode 7 of the Bludd Heart podcast. I'm your host, Bluddshed. What we do here is talk about all things Diablo, but we do branch out into other games and entertainment towards the second half of the podcast. Today we have a lot to unpack, so I'm not sure we'll get into anything else entertainment-wise. There is a lot to go through. I'm going to go down the list and talk about my thoughts and opinions and what I use for each item. I spent about 50 hours on the PTR thus far, and we're going to get into that today. I do post the podcast episodes on Tuesday mornings, Pacific Standard Time, around 10 a.m. Pacific. And you can find them on all major platforms like Spotify, Stitcher, Apple Music, places like that. All the normal podcast places, right? First, I'm going to get into my life a little bit. My week has been hectic, right? Lots of PTR testing. We did a few videos and we spent many hours just kind of going through each thing. And, these streams are a little bit, they go by pretty fast, man, because I'm just nonstop making a build, theory crafting. Even though it looks a little slow on the surface, we're just constantly making things over and over again versus like normal Diablo time. We're just kind of blasting away. All the work is done. We're just killing and chilling. So with the PTR, it's more like theory crafting, debating with chat back and forth, trying to figure things out and make the best and easiest build possible to execute. So if somebody just picks it up out of nowhere, they'll be able to be successful with it, right? A lot of my builds are user friendly, and I want people to get my builds, copy them and paste them and be successful with them and not be frustrated. So I always bear these kind of things in mind when I'm making the build. But on Sunday, I did get a tattoo. I got an American traditional snake tattoo on my right forearm. If you want to see a little video clip of it, I'll put it in the YouTube description. If I don't forget, remind me. It's a Twitch clip, so you can actually see it on Twitch, but I'll actually put it in the description for you. So that was fun to stream today with my hand slightly off of the desk because I couldn't actually lay my forearm on the desk, the struggles, right? The struggles. So I kind of was sitting in an awkward position as to not rub it all day on the mouse pad and kind of suspend my forearm as I was playing on a mouse and keyboard. Hey man, that's part of it, right? It's part of the experience, right? So if you want to check it out, it's in the description. Super chill tattoo spot I go to in San Diego, and I have another appointment coming up here shortly. So I don't know. I just been into it, just going for it and not thinking too long like I should get it or I want to get something. I just kind of go for it these days. All right. Let's segue into the first item of the PTR notes, the Flavor of Time. They added a new legendary power to it where pylons last twice as long. Sounds crazy, right? It is kind of crazy to a certain extent. So you're looking at 2-minute shield pylons, which is great for hardcore, by the way. You're looking at a minute-long power pylons, a minute-long conduit pylons, right? So everything is effectively doubled. Now this affects pylons and not shrine effects. So they're separate. You can't stack them with the shrine gloves or anything like that. So bear that in mind. I could see this being insanely best in slot for super endgame fishing. Like if you're really, really, really trying to get the rank 1 clear and you use the Flavor of Time, you might be just looking for that rift. There's a chance you get like a 0% progression pylon, right? Sometimes you walk into a GR and there's a Condi or there's a power. So this might make fishing extremely insane at a high level. For your day-to-day rifting, your normal people that push, maybe you take 10 to 50 attempts, right? Most of us do hundreds and hundreds of keys at the end game, right? But if you normally fish like 50 times for your clear and then you call it for the season, this probably won't have that much of an effect on you. It's fun and it's great for speeds and just in general. Like if, let's say a speed run is 3 minutes and you get a shield pylon, that will last 2/3 of your time in the Greater Rift. I was actually got 4 pylons at once. I had a super fast clear in a forest map, and I actually had all 4 pylons the entire time because it was a 2-minute run and I had, all the effects. So It's kind of wild and crazy and fun. And it's one of the fun items of the PTR, I'd say. But I think it will have some implications at the very, very, very top. It almost is insignificant. Like the top 1% might actually just fish for that god map with the god pylons now. So it adds another layer, potentially. But it's a good addition to the game. I like it. One downside about the Flavor of Time is it's insanely hard to get a good one. If you don't know, we have a PTR exclusive vendor. His name is Dank Meme. We call him the goat vendor or whatever, the giant goat in town. And I've probably gotten hundreds of Flavor of Times with bounty bags. You know, it costs like 50 blood shards and you get a Flavor of Time. So we just get so many of them. And man, I think I have one that's okay. Maybe one that's okay. Maybe two that's okay. Oh my God forbid we need to get an ancient version of the Flavor of Time because, man, it's really, really tough. So good item, fun. It's not grossly overpowered because it's really hard to utilize. You really have to fish and flip for a god map anyway. But let me know what you guys think. Always in the YouTube comments or tweet me, hit me up on Discord, all that stuff. The next one is the Executioner, okay? It's a new legendary power. Again, we're getting new legendary powers in 2019 for Diablo 3. I love it. The Executioner got a new legendary power. Attacks will slay enemies with less than 5 to 10% health. So up to 10%. So it's like Frailty, basically. It goes up to 10%. I couldn't get it to work on a follower. So I just got the item and I gave it to my Enchantress. And it didn't work, right? We tried adding different abilities. We tried to add different items. Nothing could work. But people are telling me that other people have found a way to make it work. So if that's the case, and you know, there might be some interaction with, say, Azarath, right? Or Azarath freezes and does like frost damage, right? So maybe, or like something like that, an item like the Wyward Protector that does lightning damage. You can't have two weapons on your follower, but let's say there's a weird interaction that causes it to proc and slay the Rift Guardian with 10% or less health. That would definitely be best in slot because that's a lot of work, right? Actually taking off 10% of Rift Guardian's health is awesome. If they change it and they make it just on normal attacks, I don't think that's overpowered at all. I think that's fun that we have something new to give our follower. It might make Enchantress a little best in slot since the Templar and the Scoundrel can equip two-handers. Only the Enchantress can wear like a two-handed axe, especially, is what the Executioner is, right? I don't think it's broken. I think it's fun that there's new stuff. And there might be some situations where you don't use the Executioner because, you know, like you're a high single target class anyway, like let's say like the Impale Demon Hunter or the Corpse Lance Necro or Invoker Crusader. Like they don't care about single target. They're bosses of the single target world. So they might not need it. But with other classes that struggle on the Rift Guardian, it might be best in slot. As far as using it, I have used it in a bunch of builds. For a speed build, it's kind of nice, you know, like right when the enemy gets low, they effectively get executed, right? Executioner. It's fun in speed builds, but I really can't find a use for it over Ingeom, over the new Echoing Fury, which we're going to get into shortly. Over other things, there's a lot of good options. Let's just say the weapon slot is premium. Like a weapon slot is usually the best slot because there's some badass properties in there. And it's really competitive, right? If the Executioner affix was on a helm, or maybe you'd use it more on a ring or an amulet, maybe, right? But as a weapon slot, it's a little too, it's like not really usable under most circumstances, but there might be builds that we're overlooking. Again, you know, I haven't tested everything. I've spent like 50, 60 hours in the PTR, but I haven't tested every situation. So there might be something where it's really good. Up next, we have the Stone Gauntlets. Okay. They added a new legendary power. Again, another new power. Getting attacked will slowly turn you to stone. You gain 50% more armor, but your movement speed is reduced by 15%, and this stacks up to 5 times. Oh, and your attack speed is reduced by 20%. So what this effectively means is at 5 stacks, which happens really quick because you have mobs hitting you constantly in Diablo, right? There's just mobs everywhere. So as soon as you hit 5 stacks, which is pretty quick, you're going to have 0 attack speed, and your movement speed is reduced by up to 5 times. So that's 60% reduced movement speed. It's not that bad. And movement abilities don't seem to be too affected by it. So you put these gauntlets on, you get 250% more armor, you get 0 attack speed, and you get about half movement speed. So just think of it like that. So 250% armor is a boatload, right? So we were seeing how high we can get. We were trying to break the game with Crusader, and we got to like 98.9% reduced damage of enemies our level, which is effectively we taking no damage. So it's kind of broken with certain builds. So who can benefit from 250% armor and they don't need any attack speed? So if you don't know, abilities like Explosive Blast, abilities like that have a cooldown, and cooldown based abilities are not affected by attack speed. So your animation is unaffected. So you could effectively make like an EB tank build and just sit there in the middle of 1,000 mobs and EB away, and the movement speed doesn't really matter and the attack speed doesn't affect you adversely. And then you'd have the 250% more armor just to be able to tank and stand and stuff. We had fun with it. We made a lazy shotgun build, right? A lazy shotgun build utilizes enemies hitting you, and then you reflect like this holy shotgun blast back at the attackers. So now it makes holy shotgun, in my opinion, even better. You're basically invincible as holy shotgun. Like we literally took our hands off. We did a 120, took our hands off the keyboard and mouse and just stood there and laughed. We didn't clear the rift, obviously, but it's insane the amount of armor you can get to. This is only really good for enemies, like I said, that have cooldown based attacks, or like a Thorns or like a Reflect type of build. So I haven't actually tested this with Thorns Necro, but this might make Thorns Necro just stupid. This might make it broken, stupid, and all that stuff, since they don't need attack speed or anything, right? You're just like waiting for them to attack your pets, as far as I know. I only have a little bit of experience on Thorns Necro, but I'll get back to you. We'll test it throughout the week before the PTR is over, and I'll let you know. It does feel like this is the one thing that could get nerfed. Like there might be a combo that we don't know about, and it could actually break the game. This is the one item out of everything we're going to talk about today that I think might see like some kind of nerf or adjustment, because I mean, I was getting to 98.9% armor reduction. To put in perspective, I had 230,000 armor to get there. Look at your character sheet right now. You probably have like 8 to 15,000, and I got up to, especially with an armor potion, there's a lot of buffs. There's a lot of buffs out there. I got to 230k without even really trying. We were just trying a little bit. So I can imagine if somebody really theory crafts, really puts armor on their build and all that stuff, and uses red gems, and who knows, man, 99.9, the sky's the limit. This is one of the items where I think it could get nerfed. It's fun, but it's not that fun, because I don't know if you ever attacked with 0% attack speed, but your character basically moves like a snail, and you're super vulnerable to attacks when you're doing so. So you can't keep up FNR, you can't do a lot of things like that. It's up in the air still, but I do love it on Lazy Shotgun. Lazy Shotgun's one of my favorite builds, and Diablo fans actually featured our Lazy Shotgun build a few weeks ago, and I would definitely add it to the mix if it doesn't get changed. Up next, Echoing Fury. Okay, so we all know Echoing Fury, one of the most famous, iconic, vanilla Diablo items. Echoing Fury. New legendary power, slaying enemies, sends you into a frenzy. Killing enemies increase your attack speed by 15% and your movement speed by 5%. This stacks up to 5 times. So essentially, this is what we said on our feedback video to Blizzard. We said, hey, you should change the whirlwind bonus. So when you attack something with your 6-piece, you get a stacking attack speed bonus and movement speed bonus. That way, on hit, right? That way it makes whirlwind viable, and it's really slow without it. So it would just make it more viable and better overall. So they added this affix to the Echoing Fury. So you're getting your attack speed up to 5 times, which is 30, 60, which is 75 attack speed and then 25 movement speed. So it's a dope item. The only problem is that it's on kill. So if you do it on kill, it's useless on the Rift Guardian. I mean, some Rift Guardians have ads, and that helps. And when they have ads, you can keep up your buff. It only lasts up to 3 seconds though. So like, let's say, like the ads are dead now, and then you lose your buff. And now you basically have this weapon in the cube that isn't doing anything for you when you could have just carried a furnace, or you could have carried something that might actually help you on the Rift Guardian for pushing. For speeds, you don't need that. You're flying through the map. It's great for speeds. If it was meant to just be for speeds, then that's cool. I guess I like it so much. I wish it was on hit. Because if it was on hit, then Whirlwind would be way better. Like Hoda Barbs would be insanely good. Maybe Gen Monks would be better. Pretty much anybody that can attack. Spectral Blade Wizards would be insane. A lot of on hit, fast attacking builds could be able to use it. Versus it's going to be more situational. Like, it's great on Wizard too. Like Veer's Wizards. I was running speed hundreds with it really fast. But Wizards are already good. One thing that I would say to Blizzard if they're listening, if you make Echoing Fury on hit, it's not going to make Thorn's Necros better. It's not going to make Bazooka better. It's not going to make Veer's better. If maybe slightly, but not really. So the top of the top, the cream of the crop, the best builds in the game, from what I can tell, aren't going to really take advantage of this. Law and Carnival can't even really use it because you have to carry 2 specific items, right? So I think it would be good to make it on hit. It would bring up the B and C tier builds to like the A tier because it's a really good item and a good concept. Getting that much attack speed is insane. That's more attack speed. 75% is more than the Istifon set, like the Slander and Little Rogue combo. It's super fun and it makes it even more fast paced and all that stuff. So I hope they change it to on hit. If they don't, boo, I guess. You can still use it for speeds and things like that. The Echoing Fury, very interesting, has the potential to be top tier item. And that's one reason why I haven't made any build videos, like official build videos, because this stuff is all subject to change. So anybody putting out videos, it could actually change. There's a good chance it sticks, but they might change like Echoing Fury to on hit. They might change, other items that we're going to talk about, like Mortick's Brace and all this stuff. And the video basically would have to be another video. So I don't want to do double work myself. So I'm just going to wait. I'm going to put out some like feeler videos and we'll see how it goes, right? Up next is Squirt's Necklace. Okay, they added a new legendary power to Squirt's Necklace. And before I continue, one cool thing they did about the PTR is I know that the Diablo has like a limited resources on their team. There's not a lot. They don't have a big team. I only know of one developer, one or two developers maybe, that are actually developing the content. So one cool thing is like Echoing Fury and Squirt's Necklace, Stone Gauntlets, Executioner, Flavor of Time. Like these are all usable across all the characters. So it's a very effective use of your time. You make an item that everyone can use and it's just better, right? Because it's like you're doing work for everybody versus if you just do one item for each class, you only get 7 items. But if you do 7 items that are affected on 7 classes, then it's just more variety. You get it. I'm explaining it weird, but you get it. Okay. Squirt's Necklace, new legendary power. While not taking damage, your damage is increased by 100%. And damage taken is increased by 50%. This is effectively like the Traveler's Pledge buff on your character. Now it's amazing. Okay. 100% is dope. Also, when you take 50% damage, it's noticeable. So you like losing basically 50% of your DR. So if you have like 200 and you're wearing squirts and you get hit, now you only have 150. And we get hit all the time in Diablo. So you can see the problem. Now this item's dope though, because there's clever ways to take advantage of it. Like if you're playing a wizard, they have a bunch of shields that can protect you. I even found a way to use it with Witch Doctor because of Jaunt is 3 seconds and you can get shields, say from the Molten Wild Beast gem or the St. Archu gauntlets. There's ways to get shields in the game and ways to make yourself not targetable. So like Witch Doctor can actually take advantage of squirts nicely. If you stay back really far, right? If you're playing like a multi-shot Demon Hunter, a Wave of Light Monk, if you're just hanging back, even with Frozen Orb, you can actually take advantage of it nicely because you're not getting hit every second. You're far away from the mobs, killing them at range. Squirts is nice, and I like the trade-off. I like the high risk and high reward gameplay. I can see myself playing like a Veer's Wizard and only going in when my shields are up to do damage with squirts. So you have to gamble this like shield versus DPS mechanic. I can see it being really interesting in a lot of builds. And the fact that you can put this on a lawn build and you can give them like St. Archu gauntlets, it's effectively useful for everybody. You know, there's like a chance there that you can use a shield and Molten and get in and get your DPS and then get out and then re-engage. So it's just a new way to play. I like it overall. I think it's cool. The next one we have is the Reaver, okay? I can't pronounce this, the Messerschmitt's Reaver. They added a new legendary power to it where it reduces the remaining cooldown of one of your skills by 1 second when you slay an enemy. So it's kind of like maybe a Grave Injustice or something like that. Reduce the remaining cooldown of one of your skills by 1 second when you slay an enemy. So this effectively allows like necromancers to have like a perma Land of the Dead. And it's not bad, especially for speeds. For pushing, I don't know if it's enough to keep it up full time. But for speeds, you can definitely keep it up full time. You might be like, yo, Blood, that's overpowered and this and that. But necros are going to be taking advantage of, say, like Captain's Crimson, which we're going to get into pretty soon. And you can't wear Captain Crimson and Stewart's Greaves, for instance. So it's just like give and take. So you can get Permaland of the Dead, but you can't wear like Stewart's Greaves with Captain to get Permaland of the Dead. So you're sacrificing your attack speed or your movement speed or something. There's always some kind of trade-off. This, in my opinion, is not overpowered. If anything, it's a little underpowered because we do have Ingeoms of the world and we do have like other abilities like Witch Doctors have Grave Injustice and like Wizard has Aether Walker. We don't need any cooldown. Witch Doctors have the Monezuma set. They can get around with the chicken form. They don't actually need it, or Severance. So there's not necessarily, it doesn't seem overpowered, at least on the surface. There might be a broken Necro build that has Perma Land of the Dead. But when you're pushing like the highest tiers of the game, you're probably not killing that fast to take advantage of it. It's like a speed. It's like Echoing Fury, right? It's just really good for speeds, I think, at least at first glance. And that's it. I'm happy to talk about the next item. Mortick's Brace has returned to Diablo 3. Damn, Mortick's Brace hasn't been in the game since a PTR Patch 2.2. And I actually covered this years and years ago. One of my first videos, I believe, back then. And they actually brought it back to the game. If you don't remember what Mortick's Brace looks like, it looks like strong arms with a buckle on it. And Wrath of the Berserker gains the effect of every rune. So you see that and you're like, damn, that's dope. I want that. Yes, please. And it is good. It fixes a lot of the barb problems. Like barbs have a survivability issue with Whirlwind and other builds. And what this does is it gives you crazy amounts of life per fury, which we know how powerful life per fury is. And it gives you 50% damage reduction. But what it doesn't really give you is more damage itself. So it's kind of overwhelming and underwhelming at the same time because you're like, damn, you fixed the survivability problems, but you didn't touch the damage problem. That's what Barb really hurts on too, is damage. So for feedback, I would offer Mortick's Brace, get some kind of multiplier, or let's just say Wrath of the Berserker gains the effect of every rune and its effects are doubled. Then we'd have crazy survivability and crazy damage. Or you just do like a gains the effect of every rune and the insanity buff is quadrupled, right? Or doubled, right? That way barbs get more kick with it because it's not really enough for pushing, in my opinion. It might be like an A tier build. Maybe like a lot of the builds are back up to A tier, but it's definitely not S tier. It's definitely not competing for top 5. So it's like probably the 7th strongest class still. So it's cool though. We actually got a new item in the game. Like Mortick's Brace never officially was in the game. It was just on the PTR. So it's cool to actually see it, back in the game, like the return. So overall, it's cool. I actually use this in some builds, like my Whirlwind speed build. I think it's great. It's good for speeds, right? So Whirlwind Barb is great for speeds. If you guys don't know, I put a video out on the PTR. I showcased 5 different builds and Whirlwind was one of them. Whirlwind is basically back. It's strong. We tested it with low Paragon and no augments, and it was crushing content. But for pushing, you just get stonewalled because of the lack of damage to push through the higher tiers, right? Every 5 levels, it's just like a way more health and way more damage and all that stuff. So Mortick's Brace, the PTR is not over. Hopefully you get a little bit more Sriracha kick, my dude. This next item you might not have ever even seen in the game because you have to craft it at the blacksmith. It's a mojo from the blacksmith. It's called Spite. And they added a new legendary power to it for witch doctors. Non-cleaving gargantuans gain the cleave and chilling effect of the cold rune, right? So normally we have to use the cold rune because it cleaves so damn hard. It's really, really good. So now if you put this in the cube or you wear it, all your Gargs can cleave no matter what rune. It's great for variety. It's kind of like Barb. It's so good because it adds more variety and more things to the game. The only problem is it doesn't add more damage. Now I haven't fully tested it like extensively, but I spent like a good 2 hours on Witch Doctor and it does feel hella underwhelming. I'm not going to lie. It feels like it needs a multiplier. So I know multipliers are kind of boring, but they do fix a lot of the problems, right? Like it's maybe a marriage between the two. Like you have a multiplier and you have something interesting like the Spite weapon, and that makes for a good patch because it really is useless. If you want to cleave, you just use the cold rune. Why would you use another rune? The other runes are kind of not that exciting anyway. But for pushing, the rune where they enrage might be better. Like it might be slightly better because of Spite. And again, it's a weapon slot, right? It's an offhand or a weapon slot in the cube. And these are premium slots like we talked about. So to give up like, Sacred Harvester or the Furnace, just these big weapons, it's just kind of frustrating, right? So hopefully it gets a multiplier also and gives the Gargs some kind of kick. I would love to see a pet build doing well again. At least not a singularity, but like, an actual pet build. On a happier note, they added a new legendary gem to the game, which you guys might have heard about, called the Legacy of Dreams. I don't know if it's like a play on words or something because we just had a nightmare season. So now this is the dream. Anyway, it's the dream gem. A lot of people abbreviate it with LOD. While you have no set bonuses equipped, every legendary item you have equipped increases your damage by 3.75 and reduces your damage by 2%. And it maxes out at level 99. At rank 25, the bonus is doubled for Ancients. So I know there's a lot of mumbo jumbo in there, but what it's saying is it's basically exactly the lawn buff. The lawn rings? It's the same buff as the lawn rings in a gem form when you max it out. Getting a 99 level gem is super easy these days. So once you get it to 99, it's the same bonus as wearing 2 lawn rings. What this does is it allows for 2 things. It allows you to wear a legendary gem to get the lawn bonus instead of wearing the rings, right? So that's kind of option. There might be times when you want to wear the rings because you need 3 legendary gems, but most of the time you'll just slot in the legendary gem, the Legacy of Dream gem to get your lawn bonus, and then you have the 2 rings to play with. But I honestly think that some people will wear the rings in certain circumstances because losing that 3rd gem is really impactful. Like if you don't have Stricken or something, you can't kill the Guardian. So you have the option there, which is nice. The second thing that it does, which is I'm really excited about, is it's a gradual increase in power. A lot of people get frustrated because they don't have Ancients and their build's trash until they have it. But this gives you a small bonus if you have a legendary and a bigger bonus if you have an Ancient. So you get a better progression path, and that would have been a great seasonal theme too. Honestly, that's dope. I like it. I think it's great. It's like it's a bigger curve of a character story, of a character arc. And I think it's almost genius how they did it. And whoever thought of that, touche, I think it's great, man. It's just a great progression path. And it's almost like maybe the set bonuses should do that too. Like where you have, you know, you get your full bonus if it's ancient. Okay, don't do that. Don't do that because I like my non-ancient, you know, Sun Wukong amulet. That's really hard to get. Okay, but in general, the Legacy at Dream Gem is good. And it basically allows us to have a lawn season every season. It's super great. A lot of people were saying like the seasonal theme isn't that good, which I think we skipped. Maybe it's down here. Okay, I think it's coming up soon. If not, we'll double back to it. Yeah, a lot of people are saying that they didn't like the seasonal theme. And I would say, well, we're getting the lawn theme again and a bunch of other stuff. So this season is actually better than last season, in my opinion. They buffed some of the crafting sets, the crafted sets. So the Sages set got a belt, which is great for necromancers. We had the community manager in our stream, and she said they particularly were looking at necromancers when adding a Sage belt. So now there's another item to mix and match for the Sage set. But what this also does is it allows the God multi-shot builds to use a Sage set. I will probably use Captain Crimson, which is coming up next in our discussion. But man, you can actually use the Sage set with multi-shot. Basically, every class set in the game can use a Sage set now, right? Some classes couldn't, like Whirlwind Barb can use it now, for instance, which they couldn't previously. So anything like, so all the Necro builds, Whirlwind Barbs of the world, but you get it, right? So you can use a Sage set with anything, and it just gives you more flexibility to min-max it. In addition, it's automatically learned at the blacksmith at rank 12. So, you know, when you get your challenge rift cash, when the new season starts and you level up your blacksmith, you can effectively make the Sage set right away, right when you hit 70. So then you get these ancients and you get it right out the gate. And that's when we actually need Death's Breath the most, is right when we hit 70. So that's super cool. And then you get the bounty materials from the challenge rift cache. I hope you're following with me, right? The challenge rift bags have bounty materials in them. So we'll be able to start the game with the Sage set, essentially. It's great. I'm ready. I'm ready for season 18. Bring it on. This next crafted set is hands down my favorite change of the patch. I'm going to explain to you why and what it does. Captain Crimson's trimmings. You know, the Captain Crimson set, it got redesigned. The 2-piece, right? It still regenerates 6,000 life per second. The cooldown went from 10 to 20%. So now it gives you 20% cooldown for wearing 2 pieces. Also, the 2-piece gives you reduced costs on your resources by 20%. Insanely good for a 2-piece. And the 3-piece set bonus, they've been replaced. They're completely new set bonuses for the 3-piece. Damage dealt is increased by your total percentage of cooldown reduction. So you get like a multiplier based on how much cooldown you have. In addition, you get damage reduction based on your total percentage of reduced cost resource. It's so cool, man. Like, we've never had RCR from resource costs, and we never had damage increase from cooldown. So it just makes stacking these things great. You know, it's like if you have a multi-shot with the Captain set, you don't just stop at 37% cooldown. You keep going, man. That way you get more damage from your set. And it just makes those 4 stat line gloves even better. So you probably want double crit cooldown and reduced cost resource on your gloves, for instance. It's so beautiful, man. It makes like Whirlwind Barbs viable. It makes EP Juliana's Monks even better for pushing. Multi-shots better for pushing. It does a lot of work for the sets, right? Lon has been in the spotlight last season and this season even with the Dream Gem. The Captain does a lot of work, man. It really makes it great. So now you can swap in the Sage set if you want more DBs. Let's say you're in a group and there's a 4-player group and everyone's a savage. Everyone's killing everything. You're like, I'm just going to wear my Sage set. So you have your armory of your Sage set. You just click on the button. Boom. You equip a Sage set with your multi-shot set. And then you're playing by yourself, or you're playing with people that are new, or you're carrying the group. You're like, okay, I need to do more damage. I need to have better resources. I'm going to switch my UE to UE/Captain. And that way I have more resources, more cooldown, and more damage, right? And you're kind of carrying the group. There's a lot of flexibility. And that's why one reason why, especially next season, I want to play UE. I'm thinking about it. I haven't picked my main, but I'm thinking about UE because I love the flexibility of you can mix and match these different sets based on what's happening. One thing to note about the Captain set is it's your sheet cooldown reduction and your sheet reduced cost resource. If there's any temporary thing, it doesn't really work. Like the seasonal theme, which we'll get into, it doesn't work. If it's like, I noticed if it's like a cinder coat, it's only fire damage, so it doesn't necessarily work. But you do get reduced cost resource and cooldown from your Paragon. So that's, again, a nice arcing progression on your character. I love to see these like slow progressional things versus just getting everything bam right from the beginning. One thing that works great with the Captain set is Gogok, because Gogok gives you cooldown on your sheet damage, right? And that gives you more damage. So it makes Gogok even more impactful. And it's just a great set, man. I think I like it the most because we're building slightly different and we're thinking about different gems like Gogok or like just different ways to play the character. And it actually, Vigilante Belt gives you more damage, for instance. It's things like that, you know. Another set that they changed was the Aughild set. The 2-piece bonus has been replaced. So the 2-piece Aughild set reduces damage by 15% and increases the damage by 30%. So that's really good, man. It just gives you flat reduced damage and a flat damage increase. Can't go wrong with that. The 3-piece reduces damage from elites by 30. So elites do 30% damage to you. That's actually a lot. On your chest piece, you can get 11%. And I definitely notice it when I'm pushing at the highest tiers of greater rifts. It's impactful, let alone 30%. And the 3-piece also increases your damage against elites by 30%, which is huge also. A furnace is 50%, so it's like a Stone of Jordan's 30%, and now this set bonus is 30% damage to elites. One of the cool thing about Aughilds is a shoulder and a bracer. So you can actually, in some cases, like with the Khan Crusader, you can wear the Focus and Restraint, you can wear your Khan set, you can wear the Aughild set, and you can wear the Captain set or a Sage set. You can wear like 4 sets on a Khan because they have these weird off pieces like amulets and things like that. It's actually crazy. There's some situations where you can wear like 4 sets, or the Norvald's Fervor set. You can wear all kinds of stuff. So I haven't really found too much use for Aughilds yet, but it's solid and it's a great early game set. And there's certain situations where you can stack it because it is different pieces. So let me know if you guys found anything with the Aughild set in the YouTube comments or tweet me. I'd love to hear it. The final set that got buffed was Cain's Destiny. The 2-piece for Cain increases your attack speed and you get the XP bonus, right? We already know about that. It's basically worth the Cain set to get the XP. And now it's only a 2-piece bonus. So actually that's something to note is the XP bonus used to be 3, now it's 2. But the main kicker here is the 3-piece bonus of Cain's Destiny set. When a Greater Rift Keystone drops, there's a 25% chance to get an extra one. So this is, it sounds good on the surface, but it's kind of underwhelming. It's really bad. Like you have a 25% chance to get an extra key when you could just wear a Sage set where you guarantee yourself DBs, or you wear a Captain, you guarantee yourself to be a badass with more damage. So they could actually bump it to 50%. Maybe 50% would be more desirable, or maybe they can play around with the set bonuses and give you something interesting. I like that it's there though. And like I said earlier, if you are in a group and everyone's just killing everything anyway, you might as well switch to your Cain set. You have a little armory, you're like leech, you name it leech build, you know? Nobody's looking, you click on it, and then now you're getting more DBs and more keystones. You're following them anyway, picking up stuff. You might as well cash in, right? They're having the fun killing stuff. You have your fun hoarding things like a true goblin. And the final thing I want to dive into with the patch notes is the Season 18 buff. The buff for Season 18 is the Season of Triune. It's called Triune's Will. When you hit an enemy, it has a chance to spawn a circle of power. Okay, what are these circles of power? They look like Oculus rings if you guys don't know. There's 3 different types of circles. There's a power circle that gives you 100% damage bonus, which is great. What this means is no more fighting Rift Guardians without ads anymore. Like, you know, when you fight a Rift Guardian and there's no ads, you can't spawn an Oculus ring, and sometimes you can't even clear a Rift Guardian like that. So now when you're pushing and you get a Rift Guardian and you hit it, you have a chance to spawn a circle of power that gives you 100% damage bonus. To me, that's the biggest takeaway from that, you know, and when we're leveling, actually. I'll get into that afterward. The second type of circle that can spawn is a reduced cost resource circle. So like if you're playing multi-shot and you jump in the circle, you have a 50% reduced cost resource. It doesn't affect your sheet damage, so it doesn't affect captain, but it's super dope if you want to jump in there, you get like free resource. It's kind of interesting mechanic. And the third one is a cooldown reduction. While standing in an active circle, any skills currently on cooldown come off cooldown more quickly. It seems to be like 50% to me as well. I don't have the exact number though. So you can get a CDR circle, a reduced resource circle, and a power circle. The seasonal buff is going to be amazing leveling 1 to 70. It's going to be so much fun when we don't have our skills and we don't have anything. We're going to be so thirsty for these circles. And we're always going to see the theme, right? From level 1, you see the theme. If it's a lawn season, you don't see the theme until you get full ancients. So we didn't even see the theme for a long time last season, you know, or if it's a Ring of Royal Grandeur season and you don't want to play a set, then the theme's not even useful to you. You know, I played a Veers for half the season. I didn't even take advantage of the lawn season. So with this theme, as soon as you make a character level 1, you jump in, you start hitting things in the face, boom, you get to see the theme. And I think that's one of the best things about it. So from 1 to 70, it's going to be great. You're going to be leveling, jumping in, thirsty for these circles. We need all the damage we get. You know, you try to do Hoda at level 50 with no resource cost. We're going to be thirsty for these circles, okay? I promise you. And then you hit 70 and you start doing your season journey or whatever you're doing to gear out. Those circles spawn and you're going to walk right into them because we don't have our movement speed. We're not killing fast. It's going to be so great. You know, you're fighting Maltheo for the first time. That damage circle pops. You're so happy. And then you slowly gear out, you play, and let's say you complete your first speed build. You instantly don't care about them anymore. It's like one of those things where when we're doing speeds on our day-to-day life, you know, it's like, no, we don't ever jump in Oculus rings when we're doing speeds. Almost never. There's times when we do, and we might use the triune buff when we're doing speeds. But I think overall, it's going to be great early. And when we're doing speeds, it's going to be useless. And then when we're pushing at the highest tiers, we're going to be thirsty again. So that's how it's going to go. Useful in the beginning, useless in the middle, and useful at the end of the season. So when you're doing your pushes, like let's say the Rift Guardian's like 5% HP and a damage circle pops with 2 seconds left or 5 seconds left, it's going to make some great moments, I think. You get a freaking Convention of Elements cycle on cooldown and a power circle and an Oculus circle, and you jump in them. It could make for some amazing RNG moments that completely like turn the tables of your Greater Rift. So just keep that in mind. On our day-to-day life, we don't care about this kind of stuff. But when we're pushing, it's going to be amazing. When we're leveling, it's going to be actually amazing. I can't wait to try it out for the season. I did play with it on the PTR, obviously, and it's just like an Oculus ring. There's nothing to really even test about it. Woo, man, that was a lot. We really deep dive into that. I hope you guys got some stuff out of it. I will tackle one community question. People say, yo, Blood, what's your favorite build, man? You've been playing. What's your favorite build? And honestly, I don't really know, but if you forced me to answer, I would say my favorite overall build is UE multi-shot, like I talked about, because pushing with the captain and I get to wear the new stuff. I get to wear the new toys. I get to play the UE set for pushing, and I get to wear the Captain Crimson set and Squirt's necklace. So it's like new toys, and Squirt's necklace is pretty easy to get, rolled pretty well. Like a Flavor of Time, like I said, is almost impossible, but a Squirt's necklace is pretty good. But there's a lot of builds, and I'm excited about a lot of stuff. And if they change Echoing Fury to on hit, I'll probably play Lon Hoda. Like not even close. If they change Echoing Fury to on hit, I'll probably main Lon Hoda Barb. I haven't mained Barb in a while. I'm waiting for it. If you want to support the podcast, feel free to sub on Twitch, sub on YouTube. You can leave a like or a comment on the podcast, like on Apple, the Apple Podcasts, or basically Patreon, anything you want to do. You can follow the stream. You can talk to me when I'm live streaming. It's just as valuable when people talk to me while I'm streaming. You gotta know that when nobody's chatting in stream, it gets kind of meh. we don't really have that problem anymore. But sometimes, later in the day, like 5, 6 o'clock at night, everyone's chilling all day. Everyone's like playing on their other, watching me on the other monitor, playing Diablo, just talking to me, asking me stuff. It's always nice. Thank you guys for listening every week. I get to see the stats and we get a lot of listeners on the podcast. I appreciate that as I continue to develop the podcast and make it better. Hopefully you stick with me, man. I've been working my hardest I get excited, man, when I make these podcasts every week and all that stuff. But anyway, this podcast is already super long. Thank you so much. My name is Bluddshed, and I'm out of here. Peace.